This is the Parra Cave podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, and co-sponsors Beau Cook from Loan Market, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, the official clothing partner of the Parra Cave podcast, and the official media partner of the Parra Cave podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Parra Cave podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Parra Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome to another cracking episode of the Parra Cave podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, Beau Cook from Loan Market, Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Teamwear, the official apparel sponsor of the Parra Cave podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Parra Cave podcast. Now, to today's episode, and it is the interview style podcast that I will be releasing every Thursday, 6 a.m. every Thursday. So this is the interview style podcast, and it is with former NRL player who played for the Parramatta Eels and also the North Queensland Cowboys, and that is Shane Muspratt. Now, this is a really interesting chat. It is a long chat, but it is a really interesting chat. We cover off on his playing career with the Cowboys and Eels, some stories about his former teammates. We also talk about how he has got a junior carnival named after him. Such a pretty prestigious honour to have a junior rugby league carnival named after you. We also talk about current day rugby league as well, and that we talk about the hip drop tackle. So some very interesting thoughts from Shane about the hip drop tackle in this podcast. So especially great to hear some thoughts from an ex-rugby league player about this topic, because we're, as fans and watchers of the game, rugby league, we are all a little bit confused about actually what is a hip drop tackle. So really good to hear Shane's thoughts on this hip drop tackle saga, or I guess you could call it, and the confusion, and get that from a player's point of view. So that's also in there, along with the personality questions and also the common league questions. So there is so much in this interview. Really enjoyed it. He played with the likes of Johnathon Thurston, and also one of my favourite Eels players, if not my favourite, if not the favourite Eels player that I have, is Nathan Hindmarsh. So some great little stories there, some funny laughs as well. So tune into this one. As I said, it's a long one, but it's a really enjoyable one as well. Now, over time, it will be also available on YouTube as well, broken up into a couple of parts and put on YouTube as well, so you can watch the visual interview as well that we recorded, as it was a Zoom chat. Shane is these days up in Brisbane, and obviously I'm in the Parra Cave podcast. I'm in the Parra Cave doing the interview. So, yeah, that will be coming out on YouTube later on. Not too sure when that will come out yet, but it will be there. So anyway, let's get into the interview with Shane, and I just really appreciate his time for coming on the Parra Cave podcast. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And look, enough of me talking. Here is Shane Muspratt and his rugby league story. So as Hindy says,
get a beer, coffee, whatever you want.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy, and let's get straight into it.
G'day, guys. It's Shane Muspratt here, former NRL player, North Queensland Cowboys and Parramatta Eels. Just about to jump on the Parra Cave podcast with Troy Warner.
And as you heard from his intro, my guest today on the Parra Cave podcast is a former NRL player with the North Queensland Cowboys, but also played at the club that I love, the Parramatta Eels. And he's joined me today. Welcome to the Parra Cave podcast, Mr. Shane Muspratt.
Thanks, Troy.
No worries. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, going back in the early days as a kid, was rugby league always on the radar, something that you always enjoyed doing in North Queensland?
No, not initially, mate. It's growing up in a small community of 5,000 in the Burdekin. Sort of tried everything. So initially it was soccer and BMX. We were pretty good little BMX riders early in that sort of period. My sisters ended up getting world plates when they were like 8. Basketball was my big sport and didn't start playing footy till I was 12. Okay.
Growing up then, who was your footy team growing up then?
I'm a Queenslander, so the Broncos were the team prior to the Cowboys coming in, but the North Sydney Bears had a bit of it. My dad had some close friends at their leagues club way back in the day, and the Burdekin Foley Shield side way back used to be the Burdekin Bears. So they sort of had a very similar strip, and so North Sydney was a bit of a soft spot as well.
Who were your sort of favourite players, either from the North Sydney Bears or in the rugby league in general?
Oh, mate, I think through that period was Wally Lewis. You know, you sort of sat watching State of Origin with Dad as a young kid, and I've got 2 younger sisters. None of the females in the house were allowed in the lounge room because they talked too much and on Origin night, and it was just Dad and I, and everyone else has got to shut up, and that's when Wally probably produced his best footy. So any kid through that era always, likes Wally, and but that was my basketball stuff. But my hero through that era was Larry Bird, actually.
Okay, yeah. So is the Boston Celtics your team in the?
That's my team, mate. Yeah, he give hope to a young white kid that couldn't jump. So
definitely couldn't really get into the basketball myself, but love the rugby league. You said you started at 12 there. Was then something rugby league that you wanted to take on and maybe continue on and do as a sort of career?
No, it wasn't really. Basketball, as I said, for me, if they ever overlapped through my early teens, I always played basketball, played a few rep carnivals, made a couple of state teams as I got a bit older, and then it wasn't really until Super League. At the end of a basketball national sort of tournament, that next year, Super League sort of popped its head. All the small communities used to have those little development programs, tied to the club, and they sort of went round to all the Ingham and the Burdekin and Tully and all that, and invited a few kids that they thought, might wanted to, that might be a chance to trial, and literally trialled and playing footy ever since.
Okay, yeah. So from one of those carnivals, that's how you made it to the North Queensland Cowboys through their system?
Yeah, like it wasn't even a carnival. It was more around Super League. Let's go and invite a stack of North Queensland kids that, each club would sort of put up. Yep. So I know the Roosters sort of put myself and about 4 or 5 blokes up that were potential. And yeah, mate, that first year Super League didn't occur. So we had an under-17 side that most of us was 16 and 15, and we played in the under-19 Townsville Rugby League comp, which we won that year. I played with Scotty Prince, was in that team.
Yeah.
A few guys that went on to play NRL, Grant Ribel, So, yeah, mate, it was the Super League had its ups and downs. Well, you guys are ARL, obviously, but for kids in general, because the concept was always supposed to be if the Broncos went and played Perth or New Zealand, it was supposed to be under 17s, under 19s, reserve grade and A grade.
Yeah.
So from a fan's point of view, a sponsor's point of view, mate, you're getting a full day of rugby league, which was so good for the game. But obviously it didn't happen that first year. The next year it happened. We were under 19s. And, yeah, mate, it's a shame because the under 19 team when I was under 17 and a stack of that group went on and played, you know, Johnny Doyle, Butsy, Aaron Ketchell. Man, that group they were grown men, but I wish that team really did get to play back in that day together because they would have been very, very hard to stop. Yeah.
I suppose I probably haven't heard the Super League being talked about like in that way. We've all heard that it benefited players that were already playing, obviously with the amounts of money going around, but and the broadcasters as well getting subscriptions and stuff like that. But what you've just said there, it's a very interesting tale that it was more sort of great for the kids at that time. Coming through into grades.
But particularly in North Queensland, I didn't really appreciate the junior space until I got to Parra. But, you know, you've got Jersey Flag and, like, a kids are, you know, I suppose your club region of Parramatta, you play club, but your rep side's the Parramatta Eels.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas you never really had that in North Queensland. You like Burdekin, we played against Proserpine and Collinsville and in that area. And then our rep side was Burdekin with Sunday. And then through that, you could make the North Queensland side. But it was never the Cowboys, you know. It was the North Queensland Marlins, I think, back then.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I got to Parra to see how, I suppose, you know, how ingrained it is for kids that, you know, as 14, 15-year-olds, that's the dream.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, if Super League didn't pop its head, I don't think I would have been playing NRL.
Yeah. Well, as I said, that's another sort of interesting sort of tale from the Super League days as to another side of it.
Don't worry, I wish I was 5 years older and I'd played a few NRL games when I was negotiating.
I bet.
We were 4 years from the money, but in regards to opportunity, and that was the biggest thing. As I said, there's probably a stack of kids that might never have made, you know, just the system rather than, you know, there wasn't a lot that went on to play NRL through, I know our under-17s, there was a handful, but, you know, it's the appreciation. I don't think the fans know as much how actually hard it is, the sacrifice of players and that sort of stuff to actually play NRL. It's because you're not one of 20 really, you're one of 100 in a region. You know, if you just make that last 20, you're sort of lucky, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a couple of years later, after the initial one and only Super League competition in 97, in 1999, you make your first grade debut for the North Queensland Cowboys. What do you remember about your debut game?
Mate, it was against the Warriors, who were 90% the Kiwis. They were massive back then. Yeah, mate, it was funny. That year was out the back of Super League. The QRL wouldn't allow the Cowboys to have a reserve grade side. So they sent about 10 of us to the Cairns Cyclones that played in the Queensland Cup.
Okay.
We were all 18, 19-year-old kids, and just you can imagine being in Cairns in a tourist hotspot as an 18, 19-year-old through that period. But we learned a lot, met a stack of good people, and then literally at the end of that year, managed to. My debut was the third last round. We didn't win that game. They were such a big side. still was picked to play the next week, and that was actually the last game that West played as West before they merged.
Yeah.
I had my dad. He had about 10 of his mates out there as at Campbelltown. I actually got food poisoning the night before the game and didn't get to play.
Oh, no.
So Nick Patterson, who was another young fella, he made his debut that day. I think we won that game, actually. And, yeah, it was she was an eye-opener, Campbelltown, back then, bit supporting their own, one team. But, yeah, you need to have thick skin, let's put it that way.
Do you remember what you ate to get food poisoning at all?
Mate, I don't know, no. I was filthy because back then, as a kid, you don't have really any big contracts. So my bonus was match payments, which was big back in those days. So as a kid, mate, I was like, I was filthy because that was where, that was a really good income for one game,
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, you played two games the next year for the Cowboys.
I played the very first one. You remember they brought in that rule where it was 17, but then you could have two interchanges, which was 18 and 19, that if someone come off, you could replace it.
Oh,
so
yep.
It was, so I was one of those. We played Penrith. In Penrith, it was Nathan Hindmarsh's debut as well.
Okay.
Good mate. He's at the Dragons now. Not the Dragons, the Dolphins assistant. Yep. He got sent off. He only played like the last 20 minutes. He was so wide. He literally in 10 minutes he put a coat hanger on the 5'8" back then with Carter.
Yeah.
And got sent. So it was. We didn't win that one either. But, mate, as kids, we only played 20 minutes, but the first two people to get dropped were the young kids. So that's footy, unfortunately.
Well, the coach back then was Tim Sheens, and we see him going around this year for the Tigers. What was Tim like as a coach for yourself?
Mate, it was very skills-orientated, Sheensy. Back then we sort of got brought into that system. We were young, but when that Super League, Ian Roberts was there, Steve Walters was there, a lot of older, Tim Brasher had a great influence on the club. There's a lot of good people around there. I know a lot of them didn't play a lot through that sort of period, but I was never a fan of the under-20s comp. If I'm being totally honest, the reserve grade element I really liked because as kids, you sort of thought too early you probably made it when you hadn't. And through that era, half your teammates were 100 first-grade gamers, and so I really enjoy that. I don't think it'll ever get back to reserve grade. I'm not sure. I know the New South Wales Cup, which the Cowboys actually had a team in 2001 and 2002.
Yeah.
Was I think it was the President's Cup maybe, but it was under 23s, but you could have 4 or 5 people that were older than that in your team.
Yeah.
So that's when I sort of started coming into grade and playing a lot more games. But that was that era. That was that period when Scotty Prince was just lighting it up, and he was playing 5'8". I played 5'8" for reserve grade, and sometimes my halfback was Noel Goldthorpe or Paul Green.
Yeah.
So mate, as a kid, it's so good knowing that you've got someone of that maturity sort of helping you learn, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. You just mentioned Paul Green there. Unfortunately, we lost him last year. What sort of an influence did he have on you around the club at that time that he was there?
Mate, probably more, like obviously when your players were all a little bit loose back in the day and we all had a little, the game has changed so much, but probably more so when he was in Townsville as a coach. Obviously didn't have much to do with him during that period as a player-coach sort of relationship or anything like that. But from a business point of view, Greenie was really close with some close friends of myself. I'm close friends with Josh Hannay through that era as well. And I know Josh, spoke and speaks so highly of Greenie through that period. Josh got married last year. There was only a really small wedding of about 30, and Greenie was supposed to be there, sadly, but and his wife is from where I'm from, in the Burdekin. You know, so North Queensland, you're sort of only 1 degree of separation up in that era, and mate, it was very, very sad. I didn't get to the funeral. I was in Ireland for business when it happened, but I heard it was a huge turnout. His wife spoke amazingly at the funeral, and mate, you only sort of need to look at young kids. I'm a parent. I'm not sure if yourself is, Troy.
Yep.
That sort of stuff is heartbreaking when you see young kids involved and things like that. But to watch what the Sharks and Cowboys did a month or so ago, mate, Nico Hines is, you look at sort of leaders of our game. Those kids will remember that forever. What he sort of did, giving them the jersey and the medal, and mate, I heard Josh mention there was such a big turnout for the game as well through old players and teammates from both Cowboys and the Sharks. So, mate, commend both clubs on that. It was, really nice to watch.
Yeah, no, for sure. We all miss Paul Green. Obviously, he played at Parramatta as well, and the Broncos and the Sharks and the Cowboys. We all miss him a lot as well in this rugby league community. You sort of, a couple of years later, you sort of played 12 games. Did you slowly get into the groove of playing first grade? You thought you sort of made it into first grade?
Oh, I never probably thought I'd made it. I think my main, you're still young, and that was that era. We were one game off the grand final. No, actually, we were. We had a standalone reserve grade semi-final in Townsville at Dairy Farmers Stadium that had 10,000 people at it.
Yeah, wow.
I think we played North that game, and I think we won and we went into the grand final. But, it's that whole – the system's sort of changed so much now, where back then it was – reserve grade and A grade. So you sort of, I say to a lot of kids, and even via my time at the Cutters, I sort of reference it back to an apprenticeship, anyone that, wants to be a tradesman or anything like that, you do your time, you do your 4 years. Your first year, you're never doing any of the nice things. It's not fun.
Nah.
But you earn people's respect. People, it's hard work, and by your commitment of showing up all the time and having a great attitude, that's how you get rewarded.
And that's obviously what you did, because you played more games that year.
Yeah, played more games. Sheensy sort of then he got moved on, and then when Graham Murray first got there, the late Graham Murray also. But, mate, we seemed to get on really, really well, and that's when I probably played my most. I played, I think, 20 that year, and then the next year 22, which was the 2 years leading into when I come to Parra.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably was just a bit more set. I never really – it wasn't until I finished more first grade, when I finished with the young guns and playing in the Queensland Cup, where I sort of was really a 5'8". Even in first grade, I probably played like that, but it was a bit more in that lock style that they play today.
Yep.
That ball playing sort of lock. Mate, no, it was a good period. Well, mate, I love my time at Parra. Unfortunately, injuries were not good to me my year in Parramatta, and we didn't get to sort of agree. I had an option with Parramatta, and unfortunately, we didn't get to sort of agree on that to sort of see out my second year.
What was the reasoning to coming to Parramatta in 2004?
Mate, I suppose something different.
A change,
Yeah, something different. I still had the opportunity to stay at the Cowboys, but it was sort of like, mate, I'm from that region. Let's just, go and see, what another club's like.
Yep.
how people train and see if I actually can make another NRL club, or rather than sort of be a North Queensland kid that is playing well, but some might sort of suggest that that you couldn't play in another club or that sort of thing. So I always enjoyed a challenge, and I think that's anyone in sport. If you're sort of told you can't do something, you want to prove people wrong. And myself and Christy Muckett, who was at the Cowboys as well, we come down together.
Was it tough being a young kid moving into state?
No, mate. We were in we weren't in the Bronx units. We were in the one.
The Parramatta houses, yeah.
Yeah. We were sort of in the units a bit further down. They were pretty nice. There was a stack of us that were in there. Ash Graham was in there. Ryan Hinchcliffe was in there.
Okay.
Myself and Luke O'Dwyer lived together initially.
Oh, yeah.
And then he sort of moved out with a partner, and myself and Chris Thorman lived together, which was a bit of an eye-opener.
Okay. Why is that?
Rocket Reddy lived in the building as well.
Oh.
So, mate, it was a good little crew that we had in those units. But, yeah, he was a bit loose, old Chris.
That probably would have been a real eye-opener with Rocket Reddy living there, or with him being a bit older and he tamed down a bit, because I've heard some stories of his younger touring days. He was a bit...
Oh, mate, he got one of the boys... he was a G-up king, old Rocket, and he was good, but his good one was he used to put powder on the fan, all powder on the fan, and then everyone would be there for a meeting, and he'd go, "Oh, boys, I'll see you later," and as he'd leave, he'd turn the fan full ball. But, it was good. It was good.
What was Coach Brian Smith like? I've heard from a lot of players they rate him as one of the best coaches he's had. I could only assume that him and Tim Sheens are sort of similar in coaching styles, or are they completely different?
No, I think they just thought about the game, non-stop. I see Smithy's young fella's doing really well. He was only young when I was at Parramatta, but I think Smithy, well, probably Sheensy first, and then sort of Smithy, where they're those sort of Warren Ryan style, where they're always thinking, 4 or 5 steps ahead of how can I implement different things in training, in skill, in all of those things to, try and get a bit of an advantage, through there. So there were some things that we were doing, training and that I'd never sort of seen, in North Queensland and that. So that's another sort of good part about, going to another club and stuff like that. I still see Craig Catterick here and there. Cat was the trainer. Yeah. So he was travelling a bit in North Queensland. I'd always run into Cat. Same with Hayden Knowles, who was obviously good man, Knowlesy. So, mate, there was just a really good crew back through that era, which most footy clubs are like that anyway. It's we're fortunate as players, even though you do move into state, you sort of go into a ready-made network.
Yeah.
And unless you're a DH, you generally fit in pretty well. Yeah.
Was 2004, was that the Jamie Lyon year where he left mid-season?
Oh, mate, you asked me that question now. Killer was a good lad, just a good country lad. I'm going to say, I don't know, it might have been next year, I think.
Yeah, okay.
It might have been. Mate, I'm not too sure on that one, but it was. Yeah. Anyway,
well, who were some of the other players that you really got along with at Parramatta?
Mate, they were all good lads. Hindy and Kalis were sort of the leaders of our sort of group. Good lads. I used to hang out with Eric Growth a lot.
Oh, yes.
Mate, coming from North Queensland, when you say I'll see you in 5 minutes, mate, 5 minutes is 5 minutes for me. And I just sort of couldn't comprehend. They like him, Dykesy. Some of these blokes were living in Cronulla, and then would commute every day to training. And I was like, mate, from travelling 5 minutes in traffic was doing my head in Sydney, let alone 2 hours. But during pre-season, I'd go and stay with Guru and his old man. Matty Peterson lived in Glebe as well, so I generally went to the spots that were closer to the spots.
Yeah. Nice.
Wags was always sort of around where with Guru and that sort of stuff, so got to meet Dave Gleeson through Wags. He was pretty
really?
good friends with Lisa. Yeah.
Okay.
They used to sing at a pub in somewhere around St George or Cogra there most Sundays. And we'd end up there, and I belted a few songs out after a few beers with Lisa. It was fun.
Is there any funny Dave Gleeson stories you could tell me?
No, unfortunately, no. He could probably tell more about me.
Right, okay. Been a rock star, I guess.
So, a lot of them lived over there. Other than that sort of crew, there's a few that were in the Bronx. Old Fooey Moi.
What was Fooey like?
Man. Mate, Fooey's good. He's just a jokester and a prankster, and we always used to joke it was Fooey Moi from whose favourite food was bok choy.
Yeah. Did he ever steal your thongs?
No, not mine, because mine would never fit his feet.
Fair enough. Well, I've heard that he did that as a joke, was taking around people's thongs. Nah, champion player.
It was a good group. It was such a good group. We fit in really well and pretty quickly, and enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Was the fact that you didn't take up the option because of injuries, or the club didn't take up the option, was that the reason to go back to the North Queensland?
Yeah, well, I'm from there, so mate, I had I think it was like the last week before the first comp game, and I actually got ambulanced off training. I hurt me, did my neck. Yeah. It was in a pose or a physical session, and we all had the suits on, and I sort of swung around the tackle, and big Corey Pearson just sort of hit me head sort of back into my neck.
Okay.
And the neurosurgeon didn't let me play for about 6 weeks. Then sort of come back through reserve grade. We beat Manly in a TV game. That was my first game, and I broke my hand.
Oh, unlucky.
And I was out for like 10 weeks. So we end up, didn't play a lot of first grade after that, which was, it was a shame. I was, when you go to a new club, you want to impress and just do what you can to try and be inside. But unfortunately, injuries weren't great that year. So,
just how concerning of a injury was that? A neck injury? Like, what were you thinking at that time? Like, I mean,
mate, after a week, I thought I was ready to go.
Okay, yeah.
Physically, I was fine at the time. It's sort of that tingle back into your neck. One.
Yep.
But like a week later, if the neurosurgeon said I could play, I would have played. But mate, he was like, "You're not playing."
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Was there ever a concern when you did return of re-injuring it, or were you thoughtful of it at all? Or?
No, I was pretty fine, mate. No, I was too dumb to worry about
it. Well, when you did go back up to North Queensland, you got to play 5'8" with Johnathon Thurston as your halfback.
I did, a couple of games
in the halves there. What was that experience like?
Mate, it was good. Muzz sort of brought me in because I was, a pretty good talker and organiser. So through that period, although I was 6, I probably played a bit more as a 7, closer to the ruck, so JT could be a little bit wider off the ruck. Okay. And that was through that era. JT was, mate, he was killing it. And, so, mate, I wish I got to play sort of more through that period. But, mate, it wasn't to be. When I sort of got back, I was I didn't get to play as much first grade as I would have liked. But the first grade team was going well at the same time. We ended up winning the comp that year for Young Guns, which we had such a good side. We had over 300 NRL games in that team, and two blokes in that are pretty well known. Matt Scott and Gavin Cooper were both 19 and 20-year-olds,
Yeah, wow.
So it was, we won. That was our first Q Cup. We won like 16 in a row to the grand final.
Yeah, wow. At that young age, could you see the potential in those two of what they could be at that young age, or?
Mate, Matty Scott was just always, he loved the tough stuff. Didn't shy away from, the hard work. So, he might have been 18 and Coops was 19. I don't know what the difference was. But you think of, New South Wales Cup, Queensland Cup 20 years ago, 10 to 20 years ago. Like, it was a physical game back where both of those sort of competitions are a lot younger now.
Yeah.
So, mate, to be playing Q Cup as an 18-year-old, it's
got to be tough.
Yeah, you're pretty destined to be playing first grade. And Coops obviously wasn't playing outside anyone like Johnathon Thurston through that period, but he always had such a great game sense and awareness. So then you sort of step up a notch when JT's sort of drifting along and or putting it on a dime for you. As long as you put yourself in the right spot, you put yourself in the right spot. He went through that period where he was the most tries for a forward or something sort of crazy. So no, mate, it's I suppose Coops had to go away. I'm still really close with Coops and a few of those guys, but he sort of went away to the Gold Coast and Penrith before he come back to the Cowboys, and I think that really matured Coops for that second stint at the Cowboys, because he was there early as a young kid and then
that's right,
played his debut at the Titans even, maybe. Or it might have been Cowboys, but then he sort of left that year.
Yeah.
So, mate, sometimes they say, you sort of got to go away and find yourself or mature a bit, and then that era through, him and JT and Luke O'Donnell and the team we had, how we only won one comp is sort of, this goes to show you how hard it is
to win one.
I actually was so rooting for the Parramatta Eels last year because I'm sick of hearing how long it's been, but people just don't appreciate actually how hard it is to win the comp.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone was beating Penrith last year in that grand final. Gee, they just blew Parra off the park in that first 30 minutes.
Yes, unfortunately. They were very hard to beat last year, and as you said, when we beat them twice during the year, but finals football is a different thing, and grand finals a different thing. They had the experience of playing in grand finals, and as you said, they blew us away in the first 20 minutes, and after that it was just sort of game over. We came back a little bit in the end, but
it was like the one, the year the boys lost to Newcastle, like that. You're just chasing your tail for the rest of the game. You don't get to play how you want to because you sort of got to chance your arm a bit, but which they still nearly won that, which was a cracking comeback. But the Knights just went bang, 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 and look at the clock, and it's 20 minutes in, and it's 24-0.
Yeah, I still haven't watched a replay of that game. It kills me.
Mate, I've never, even our grand final that we won Q Cup, I've never watched that game.
Yeah.
Again, no, I've seen highlights here and there, but I suppose when you're in it, that's your memory, and that's the memory, good or bad, for a lot of blokes. But I reckon if you asked every person that's played NRL ever that, you either bundle out in the first, don't even make finals or play in a grand final and lose, I reckon I know the answer.
Yeah.
You'd rather be there on the day and experience,
for sure,
the occasion and all the rest of it. And so, mate, they were there.
They were there. Yeah, hopefully they
That
can.
last hurdle was just a little bit high.
That's it. Hopefully we can get there again. Not looking too good this year, but it's not over yet. So
Mate, it's funny, eh? Injuries. Well, there's one injuries at the moment now. The way the game is being officiated, suspensions and concussions and injuries because of all the new protocols. But there's so many people on the sidelines. So, it's really only if you can string 3 or 4 games together in a row, you're back in the top 4.
yeah, that's it. What are your thoughts on the game today? Do you like the game today? Do you watch much of the game today?
Yeah, I still watch bits and pieces, mate. I'm not a fan of this hip drop. Like,
No, I don't even know what it is.
mate, it's so ridiculous. Like you're taught to try and get someone to the ground. Now, if Payne Haas is running at me or you, and I'm 20 kilos, lighter than Payne Haas, and my first contact is never going to stop his momentum, I'm behind him already. But as you're taught as a kid, your head's got to go on the bum, and you're behind the player so you don't knock yourself out. So some of them, it's just, I sort of joke with some friends, Alfie Langer would be the most wiped out person in the game today because that's how he used to tackle.
Yeah.
But some of them are just, I actually put it back on some of the players. It's like, come on, guys, just get up and play the ball because, the minute something happens like that, no one wants to see anyone injured. But unfortunately, it's a contact sport. Like if me and you are running at each other fast and I step you late,
yeah,
and I'm a head taller than you, well, guess what? Your head's going to hit my shoulder.
Yeah.
And if you've got the ball, I can't do anything about it, but next minute I'm in the bin.
Yeah. No.
So I get the safety element of the game, but I think we've gone a little bit too far the other way.
Yeah, no, I like that explanation. I'm the same. I mean, I don't know what a hip drop is or not, but we are playing the toughest sport in the world, and as you said, we don't want to see injuries happen, but they are going to occur. And I know for one, I mean, I obviously haven't been an NRL player, but I'm sure when you played, you didn't intentionally go out to hurt anybody.
No.
And no other player does. Yeah.
Mate, it's hard. I feel sorry for the intimidation. Like, the best tackle in the game is momentum. So, if I'm running really fast at you, and if you're just off balance, generally I will win that tackle because the momentum of my body is going through you. So, players like Victor Adley and some of these guys that aren't the biggest guys but are such aggressive players, they nearly need to – it's hard to try and change that, but they're not getting it wrong. They're getting it wrong by literally 0.3 of a second. That's what people don't understand. When you watch it in slow-mo,
you see it.
Of course it looks like you can pull out, but if you look at their footwork, he's already committed to where his feet are, and he can't. And then it's just the momentum of his body. So the slow-mo makes everything look so much worse than what it really is.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And that little bit of footwork late, mate, it's you just get it. You get it wrong without trying to get it wrong.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's a tough one at the moment. Certainly very confusing for fans and players.
Yeah, but if you lose one, if every team loses one of their players, and I think one of the boys that still works at the Cowboys that we know has said there's some sort of crazy stat that there's a stupid amount of tries that have occurred when they're down 12 versus when teams are back to 13, and it's actually such a negative to lose one player now. But some of it, there's 10 minutes in the bin for a hip drop that you've just you've swung around trying to just get someone on the ground. Like the actual swinging motion is not the defender's fault. Like, it's the momentum of the runner.
Yeah.
That you're trying to stop his momentum and he's still running. Yeah, you see it so much in junior sport because the Polynesian kids are so much bigger than a lot of the other kids, so I don't know what they're supposed to do. You can't get out of the way.
No.
We don't want to teach that, but it's a hard one.
Yeah.
Let's stop there, Troy. We'll talk about it all night.
I feel your frustration. Don't worry about that. But speaking of kids, do you have a junior rugby league carnival named after you?
I do.
Yeah, that must be a pretty good honour.
Mate, it is. Yeah, the Burdekin Rugby League, because there's a few up in the region. Gordon Tallis has one, which is the under-10s. Laurie Spina, the first Cowboys captain, has one, which is under-11s. The Cowboys run that one.
Yeah.
And under-12s, there wasn't really anyone. There was a Jason Hetherington in Rocky, but the geographical space between Cairns and Rocky is, huge.
Okay,
So Burdekin, I'm going to say we're 8 or 9 years in now, maybe even 10. They sort of put an application to the QRL to do the under-12 carnival.
Okay, yeah.
And, mate, I was fortunate that, through the NRL period, there's been some great players from the Burdekin that have played for Australia and that sort of stuff, but I suppose I was just fortunate that I was the first from the Burdekin in that modern era of the NRL.
Yeah.
And jokingly, mate, they couldn't name a rugby league carnival after Curry Webb, so I'm sort of the next best thing.
When's the next one, or has it happened this year?
It always happens at the Easter school holidays.
Okay.
So
yeah,
they always do it. Generally, the middle weekend of the first school holidays, they sort of tend to do it, and mate, they always get a great turnout. They run the Burdekin Junior Rugby League and the seniors do such a good job. I just have my name associated and show up and try and convince the new crop of 12-year-olds who I am.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Well, they can listen to these podcasts as well one day too, as well, and learn a little bit more. But do you keep in touch with some of your former teammates at the Cowboys and the Eels?
Mate, we've got a punters club that's all ex-players. A lot of people are a bit envious of our punters club because we've jagged a few first fours and some big wins over our period.
Yeah.
So there's about 10 of us on that. Which is a bit of fun, but...
do you get to much of the reunions at all? Or?
Yeah, I didn't get to last year's, but I sort of, off the back of my time at the Cutters, when I moved back to Townsville, I sort of worked with the club to sort of try and make it a little bit better. I think it's important to recognise the history of rugby league clubs, and the hardest thing for North Queensland was back prior to that, we only ever did a little old boys event, which was an hour before the game and that. But, mate, for people that have played for the Cowboys but now live in Sydney or Melbourne or country anywhere, it's just not viable for them to come to Townsville for a 2-hour event.
Yeah.
So I sort of said to the club and spoke to a few mentors who are in business in Townsville and said, hey, let's do a bit of an event where it's like a 3-dayer, but people can come and part of that was because most of the Cowboys prior to TV and when they're doing well, they probably got to play more Friday nights and things like that. But back then it was predominantly Saturday, which is the best time slot for North Queensland.
Yeah.
We would all meet Friday. We would have lunch with the current playing group and then have an afternoon together somewhere, and then the Leagues Club would look after us for lunch and all get together and have a bit of a punt and tell a few stories. The more you had, the bigger the story.
Those 20-metre tries become 50-metre tries. And
then you sort of, depending on most of that first period, they won like 8 or 9 in a row, which was really cool. So, then you'd catch up with the boys after the game, and then sometimes we'd do like a lunch, which was more of a quieter family thing on the Sunday. So it actually made it a bit more enticing for old boys to try and get up there. That still involved not just the old boys but families and things like that. And, that's what most clubs are built on, but particularly North Queensland, it's out on its own up there. It's a hard-working sort of region through farming and mining and a lot of those things. And most of the supporters and major sponsors and any sort of sponsors are all local businesses throughout all of North Queensland, So, yeah, it's nice.
Have you got to a Parramatta one at all?
Mate, I haven't.
Bit hard, I guess, being up in North Queensland.
Well, mate, I coach up until this year. I'm only coaching one league team, but the last 3 years I coached both of my boys' grades in league, and they also play basketball. So I also coach both of their basketball teams as well. So it's
busy.
And then through work and all different sort of things, it's, mate, at the end of, I think it was last year, I spoke to him just on socials. Mickey Vella, I think, is driving a little bit of it now, who was there, who's a frolically challenged human like myself. But I know Michael Witt's on the Gold Coast, and there's a few boys that we sort of chat here and there that I don't think they've been able to get back, and I know they sort of reached out and said, hey, we should try and get down to one, and a few of us sort of get down there. So
we'll have to try and organise like a Brisbane one or something. Or
well, I think a couple of dads in our footy club are mad Parra fans, so they always once I told them what my playing number was. Do you know what my playing number is?
I actually don't. I didn't check it out.
Is 666.
Okay, wow.
That's my Parramatta number.
Yeah, okay.
So once I told a couple of them, but they have a big members party at one of the bars in Caxton Street. He said there's a good couple hundred people there. And
I was there. I was there 2 weeks ago for Magic Round. Lord Alfred. So they had.
That's it, on the top of the corner there.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that's the Parramatta venue for Brisbane games.
Yep.
I don't think the one later on in the year in August will be there, because I think that's at the games at the Gabba. Because of the women's soccer World Cup, so I'm not too sure what they're going to do that one, but I'll let you know when I find out what's happening there. But
that side of town, you're probably going to end up at the Pineapple, I reckon.
Okay.
It's a big bar. It's literally 200 metres from the Gabba. I know all those big Barmy Armies and a lot of those Richie Beno lookalikes. That's their starting position before they go to the cricket.
Okay, I'll mention that to the club, and maybe that could be the venue. And if it gets up and running, I'll let you know. And
perfect,
we'll be there. What are you doing these days after footy?
Mate, when I moved back, I sort of did a bit of coaching with the Mackay Cutters. I was the first coach there off the back of sort of playing, and I did a few years down there, then stayed and played after. I sort of knew at the end of 2 years it probably wasn't for me straight away. Hardest thing for me was I was probably still a similar age to a few blokes that were coming back to the team. So it was challenging but rewarding at the same time. I think from a business point of view, it was my best personal development, because I always said to myself, if I ever coached, I would always have that hard conversation with a player, whether I was dropping them or not. I tried to really sort of stand on that. So that was great. And then through that last year, I did my real estate course and then moved back to Townsville through a bit of a mentor through my playing days, which is the Gideon family. Paul and Joe Gideon had a property company in Townsville. We're a really successful sort of building family in North Queensland, and I worked with them for 5 years. And through that period, of my business partner now, who played rugby union, so we both grew up in the Burdekin. He went sort of league, and I went rugby union. When we meet people, I say, I sort of went league because I could tackle, and he went rugby.
Yeah.
But it was he sort of come back from overseas, and come across Sombrero, who's one of the main sponsors Sharks there. Yeah. So in Canberra, and he brought that back to North Queensland, and he opened a few restaurants, and I opened a couple, and we were franchise partners, and then through that, Sombrero offered us to be development agents for the brand, and we sort of had to buy into the brand, and then our responsibility was to help grow that brand, which we did, and we've opened, probably 70 restaurants in Queensland over the last 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, wow.
Most of them are franchise restaurants.
Yeah.
And then, we've taken on the international rights for Ireland, which is I got the first trip there last year. We just opened restaurant number 17 in Dublin last week.
Nice.
So, mate, between that, it keeps us busy. And has Parra played in Townsville yet?
They played the prelim final last year, but I don't. They may be playing this year as well up there. I think
they do play up there. I'm not
too sure.
We've sort of ventured into our own, having a bit of a go at our own sort of business as well now. We built a venue in Townsville on the Strand, which is a hospitality bar and restaurant called Anale.
Okay.
We sort of built that through COVID and had its challenges and all the rest of it. But, mate, we're still learning. We're learning a stack, actually, and we've got a great little staff, and community's been really, really, I suppose, supporting us and that sort of. So, mate, between that and fatherhood and chasing your own kids around, there's not much time left.
No, that's it. Just back. Well, I'll have to give Zambrero a go. I mean, there's one down the road here at North Penrith, so I'll have to give it a crack and give it a try. You haven't tried it? No, I haven't actually. I haven't.
There you go. What do you like spice?
Oh, probably very low. Very low. I'm not a spicy person.
Yeah. So, and do you have a preferred protein?
Oh, chicken probably.
Yeah, well, chicken and beef are the two popular, but the beef is really good. You do a beef as well, beef with the lot, add jalapenos, and then do a chipotle sauce, which is a mild.
Okay.
All right. You won't go wrong, Troy.
All right, I'll take your recommendation on board.
I'll expect a call.
If I'm ever up in North Queensland, I'll hunt you out.
There you go. Definitely. I'm in Brisbane now.
Oh, Brisbane? Okay, well, there you go.
I'm in Brisbane.
Next time I'm up in Brisbane, I'll hunt you out.
There you go.
And we'll go. We'll go and have lunch together. We'll wrap things up with some common league questions and some personality questions.
Okay.
Is there a favourite game? First of all, the common league questions. Is there a favourite game that you played throughout your career, and one you thought, geez, I really just love that game?
Oh, mate, I was never really much of a, not a historian, but a memory person with games. I suppose the most memorable would be our Queensland Cup grand final.
Yeah.
We played really, really well. I got man of the match that day. Had some all family and friends there. And a young mate who I met when I was 8, who's still a good friend today. In a wheelchair, I give him my man of the match medal.
Nice.
So, he come on the field with me, and it was nice. So that's probably my most memorable. And then the game, not for the good reasons, but mate, we played Newcastle at home one year, and through that period where they were just killing everyone, we walked off at halftime 40-0 down.
Oh.
It was. I wanted to go straight into the sheds and not come out again.
Yeah. What? Do you remember what the full-time score ended up being?
Yeah. We won the. It was. I'm going to say 52-14. I think it was. So we won the second half. But they took Johns, Kennedy, Badiris.
Oh, wow.
They took them all off. But mate, that was one. Memorable for all the wrong reasons that we still sort of joke about today, but Mate,
good.
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, they reckon.
That's it. It's good to have a laugh about things. Now, other than your home ground, did you have a favourite ground that you used to love playing at?
Mate, I liked playing at where is it? The West Tigers one in Balmain.
Oh, Leichhardt?
Leichhardt. I really liked Leichhardt, and through that era when I was playing, they were still playing at Ballymore. Not Ballymore. What's the Bulldogs?
Belmore? Belmore Oval?
Ballymore's in Brisbane. Belmore. I really liked them suburban grounds.
Yeah.
They were so good. Like the big ones were fun to say you've been at that ground, but you know when you played at the Sydney Football Stadium where they play the grand final, and mate, we're playing either the Bulldogs or someone like that when they moved them to there, mate. It's 20,000, but it feels empty.
Yeah.
Whereas Leichhardt, even Campbelltown, that last game, it was 25,000. They are on the fence, drool coming from their mouths. Mate, Parra was, I always say to people, Parra was a really good stadium as well because it was on top of you.
Okay.
And I reckon of all the fans, Parra were the best at recognising when they needed to be loud. Just when we sort of got to within 40 of scoring a try, the Parra chant always went up by fans, which was really, really cool. So Parra, I haven't been to the new one. It looks amazing. I can't wait to get to it one day. But those suburban sort of grounds, I really enjoyed playing at.
Well, if you do come down to CommBank Stadium, let me know, and we'll definitely catch up. And
I'll be in the Troy Warner podcast cake box, will I?
Yeah, maybe. I'll give you the tour.
There you go.
What about a least favourite? Was there a ground that you hated playing at? For whatever reason?
Mate, through the era, like once the Cowboys come in, us and the Broncos didn't like each other. Like it was that whole big boy, big little brother sort of syndrome. But through our early years, mate, there was no big brother or little brother. It was little brother getting belted up
by big brother, yeah.
And through an era that had a team that was 6 to 8 Australian players, so it was sort of just it was hard, and they knew they were good, and they knew they were big, and they knew they were fast, and so Brisbane was always one. That was I didn't play Brisbane, I don't think, at Suncorp. I played my last 2 Brisbane ones before I went to Parra was that when they moved it to QE2.
QE2.
So they were out there while Suncorp was getting done up. So, and then out of that, mate, Canberra.
Yeah.
Because Canberra in winter, it's not fun.
Yeah, no, don't worry. A lot of ex-players, when that question comes up, they mention Canberra. And it's like, I mean, even for a fan, I don't like
New Zealand, so I can't say there was one I got suspended for doing something stupid that didn't get to play, and then the other 2 either side of that in years, maybe passport wasn't valid. So I get to the airport and go, mate, you can't travel. I was just like, wow. But anyway.
Well, you mentioned Eric Grove before. He used to hate going to New Zealand. He used to always try and get out of it. And
mate, he hated anything physical.
He's a coach now for Camden
Women's,
Rams.
I think.
Yeah.
So we chat here and there on socials and throw a bit of shit talk at each other like we used to. But I did see his coach in the.
I could never pick Guru as a coach,
mate. It was not fair for us because he was not a good trainer, and he'd be the first one to say that. But then when you do testing, he'd get on and bench press something stupid and run a 40 metre something stupid, and it's just like, mate, go away.
Was he then the prankster at Parramatta, or was there another one at Parramatta? And what did they get up to?
Oh, mate, the good pranks I can't say.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
But
Yeah.
no, mate, everyone was. Hindy was like, even Hindy was a bit of a prankster and did a stack of sort of silly things. Guru, trying to think who the real one was, but mate, everyone tries it on. Everyone sort of, in some degree, has got a story of poking the bear, I suppose.
I was surprised you didn't say Mickey Vella.
Oh, Vela tried to and thought he was, but he probably really wasn't. He's the first one that said he was, but no, he wasn't.
Yeah, fair enough. What about the Cowboys? Who was the jokester up there?
Back then, mate, early, most of the older blokes, like as a young kid, I say my first away game that I played was Newcastle, and we always used to stay at the West, where that hotel and that was. And my first sort of year, and they always used to G up and stuff like that. And I got a call going, mate, it's John McDonald from Rugby League Week. I don't know who a journalist was. Yeah. I was like 20. Mate, I'm just I'm going to be in the foyer about half an hour before lunch. Can you just come down in all your kit? Or your travel kit, bring your boots and all of that. We'd probably just want to get a photo for Rugby League Week. So I'm sitting in the foyer and they timed it so everyone walked past me to go to lunch, literally sitting there for an hour, and everyone who's already eaten lunch walked back past me, and it was the last person that said, mate, what are you doing? I don't think this bloke's coming, eh? And then I went, yeah, I don't know. And then went, mate, it's a G up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So you learnt fast back in the old days, but then as I got older, I used to do that too.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
A lot of the young folks, and I got Ray Thompson a few times through that Young Guns period and stuff like that. So there's always, a few. I suppose prankster and pest are sometimes confused,
okay.
And that's I'd put Mick Vella under pest.
Pest, okay, yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah,
prankster and there's a few of them.
Yeah, no, I have heard that one as well. Who was the hardest player to tackle?
Mate. Early, I always used to say Wendell. He skinned me a couple of times playing for Broncos, where he skip across field and then that left foot against the grain. And it wasn't until when he come back from how he's sort of the Shelbourne team and then he come back and played for Burleigh for a year.
Yeah.
Mate, that game, mate, every time he had a run, 13 players from the Cutters would yell out left foot, left foot, left foot. And I was like, mate, I've been beaten too many times. And Dell after the game went, mate, it was driving me nuts because I couldn't do what I'm good at.
Yeah, okay.
Because everyone knew what was happening, and we had a bit of a laugh about it afterwards.
Yeah.
But anyone that Lockie was just people that are fast. You're hard to tackle and you're powerful by default when you're quick. So those sort of people that have no fear, that literally to get me down, you have to tackle me rather than me sort of submit.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, we'll wrap things up with the personality questions, a set of 6 that I like to call it. Now, I'll change this question because I already know the answer to that one. Favourite sport outside of rugby league is basketball. Yep. So what about a favourite sporting movie or documentary? What's your favourite?
Mate, I like the sport ones. The basketball probably comes to mind through that. I like my one through when I was a kid it's called Hoosiers.
Hoosiers,
and it was Gene Hackman who was the coach. That was my favourite basketball movie as a kid, but then I liked Coach Carter. And a few of them ones that anything that has, I suppose, even some of the football one that has a bit of a true story or a story sort of behind it. But the Hoosiers one was a bit symbolic to us being a small country town in Queensland. Whose was in Indiana, and a very, very small town. Gene Hackman was the coach who they brought in. Very fundamental, really hard. The whole town hated him, but he got them all on side because they started winning and playing as a team, and they went to the state finals from a really small country town. So for us, it was pretty symbolic because we did something similar as kids in under 14s, from the Burdekin, which was it was cool.
Ah, nice. Favourite holiday destination? Where do you like to get away to?
Mate, I'm not much of a traveller, but mate, we're fortunate in Australia.
Yeah.
That I'm in Brisbane now, so you go an hour north or an hour south, and you're in some of the best beaches in the country. But mate, for me, I'm North Queensland. Been down here now for nearly 8-9 years. Going home. And fishing and just the real simple sort of things. And, my boys love it. Crabbing, fishing, motorbikes. We can't do a lot of that stuff. So, mate, for now it's, going back to North Queensland, and we've got a little hut down at Elva Beach, and then some of my close friends who played at the Cowboys in that sort of under-17 era, still live in Ayr and really close. They've got I'll give them a quick shout out. They've got a little YouTube channel called Horo Buds.
Okay.
Horo Buds Fishing Channel. And, mate, my boys got to go on an episode when we were home for the carnival about a month ago or 2 months ago.
Yeah, nice.
So, literally, their life is now complete because they were on an episode of Horo Buds. So, mate, getting home and North Queensland and, enjoying those simple sort of things, mate, is probably my destination at the moment.
Ah, nice. Who would be the most famous person you'd love to meet and have a chat with, either dead or alive? Who would you like to meet?
Mate, I'd like to meet Larry Bird.
Okay,
After meeting Larry Bird, I would like to meet Will Farrell.
Yes.
Who's a bit of a character.
His basketball movie was pretty good.
Yeah. He's done a few good movies, but Michael Jordan would be one that I suppose a lot of people as a sportsman, he's Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
Those sort of people that have been at the absolute pinnacle of what they've done. I'd probably like to meet Donald Trump too, just to, sit in a room but you meet them, those sort of people, for an hour. They're not telling you the real stories you want to hear. But you'd love to ask uncandid questions and get uncandid answers, but you never will.
Yeah, there's certainly some characters there. Now, I'll change it up. Which three former Eels or Cowboys players wouldn't you want to be stuck on a deserted island with, and why?
Mick Vella.
Yeah, okay, Pest.
Pest. Serial pest. Chris Thorman. Serial pest. Wouldn't do anything. Wouldn't go and catch food. He'd just eat it. And then from North Queensland, probably Nathan Feen. Me and Feeney lived together for 6 years, so that's long enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, speaking of food, what's your specialty dish in the kitchen or on the barbecue?
Oh, mate, I'm pretty simple. You can't go past a good steak.
Yeah.
Mate, as long as you cook it the right way, I'm a medium rare man. A good steak. I'm pretty ham, cheese, tomato as a chef. So
that's all right.
But so just a good steak and veggies or a pasta that mate, the boys are never complaining about.
Well, yeah, I'm just a bacon and eggs guy, and steak and sausages. That's all I can do usually. Favorite musician or band to listen to?
Oh God, mate, I'm very adverse in my music genre, so I'm not really a favourite. Rock was never mine. R&B was never mine. I didn't mind sort of anything. Probably R&B more than anything, just through me basketball upbringing and that sort of stuff. But God, who would I say as a one artist, mate? Probably the Boss as well. I've seen Bruce Springsteen a few times in concert. I went to Robbie Williams while I was in Sydney when he had his concert there. So any of them guys that I've seen live that are just amazing, it's like you're listening to on the radio.
Yeah.
So, but then I've seen Justin Timberlake and Bruno Mars, who their shows were just as good.
Yeah. What's your favourite Boss song? Favourite Bruce Springsteen song?
There's 100 of them. What's the USA? Born in the USA is what's the name? But
Glory Days, Jungle Land.
Glory Days. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's 1,000. Jungle Land, Thunder Road.
I don't know the names of them. I just know the words.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate because my mum put me onto Bruce Springsteen and love him ever since. And we've been to the concerts when he comes out. So he's on a world tour at the moment. So hopefully he comes down under. He's got to come down under.
Mate, he was in Dublin a week ago.
Yeah.
And we have a food truck that is a franchise partner that built a Sombrero food truck, and they were at the concert.
Okay.
Because our business partner was sending us photos of the Boss from the truck.
Okay.
It was open air and it pissed down rain, but they reckon there was like 20,000, 30,000 people.
Yeah, nah, definitely. He puts on a great show and a long show as well, about three and a half hours. And
it's amazing that he just doesn't stop. It doesn't take a break and just goes from one to one. It's you definitely get your value through those sort of artists.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't earn the money because they literally earn their cash.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Bruce Springsteen, if you're listening to the Parra Cave podcast, come down under to Australia. The fans want you. We love you. Come down to Australia. But
come on, boss.
Yeah,
come back one.
Yeah, that's it. One more time.
Do a John Farnham tour. One more time.
That's it. Well, Shane Muspratt, thank you very much for joining me tonight on the Parra Cave podcast. I really enjoyed the chat. I didn't expect it to go this long. It just flowed really well and really enjoyed it, and probably could have spoken for another hour and a bit. But thank you very much for coming on the Parra Cave podcast today, and in Brisbane next time I'll track you down and we'll catch up and say good day and enjoy some footy together.
Appreciate what you're doing. There's a lot of people sort of doing this sort of stuff. I've got a few mates in North Queensland, and mate, it's a passion. It's hard work. I don't think people appreciate how much goes into, doing this sort of stuff. And mate, every club needs good fans, and mate, Parra's obviously got one in yourself. So well done.
How you going, mate? Are you a Parra Cave podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Parra. Well, welcome back, and thanks for listening to Shane Muspratt and his rugby league story. There were some great yarns in there, some laughs and some great stories, no doubt. Once again, I thank Shane for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate his time and his chat, and as I said in the podcast, I hope to catch up with you in Brisbane later on in the year when Parramatta take on the Brisbane Broncos up in Brisbane at the Gabba this year. I hope I can catch up and say good day in person. But thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope you, the listeners, really enjoyed his story as well. Now, before I go any further, the Parra Cave podcast hats, to those who I missed in Brisbane getting a hat too, and also if you wanted to buy one as well, I'm really I apologise much about that one. I'm really sorry about that one, but there is plenty of hats available, so don't miss out. Just head to you can email me on theparracavepodcast@yahoo.com, or send me a message on one of the social media channels and we can organise getting you a hat. I've also got the couple of polos left as well from BTZD Teamwear. They look great. I think I have 2 large and 1 extra large polo left, so they are slowly going out the door. So or they are $30 each. The hats are $15 each plus postage and handling, or you can do a combo deal as well. You can have a hat and a polo shirt for $40 plus postage and handling. So all you got to do is just email me as well on that address, and or send me a message on social media, and we'll see what we can work out, and I'll get them to you. So really appreciate that. Next thing, I hope you're really enjoying the extra content that's coming out these days on the podcast channel. I'm really having fun doing that and trying to release as much content as possible to you. I think the new Game Day podcast, I really enjoyed doing that one, getting fans involved in that one, and fans of the opposition of Parramatta week to week, and get their thoughts about Parramatta and also their teams as well, and the game. I'm really excited to bring you those ones. This week's one will come out on Friday, which is tomorrow, and it will feature someone that is pretty prominent in rugby league podcasting. It was a great chat with Age from the Cast Patrol podcast. So join that one. He's a massive South Sydney fan, so we chew the fat, so to speak, about South Sydney and Parramatta, which will be on Friday night at Allianz Stadium at 8 p.m. So have a look at that one. Give the Cast Patrol a follow on the social media channels and on Apple and Spotify. They're also on YouTube as well, so give them a follow as well. They do some great stuff to do with rugby league, and also some tips on horse racing as well, so and other sports as well. So give them a follow, give them a shout out, and follow them. They do some great stuff, and thank you very much for coming on the show, doing the Game Day preview. I will try and do a extended interview with Age as well from the Cast Patrol podcast in the coming weeks about his love for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. There's also, each week there'll be my Pulse FM chats with the Duckman as well, a review and preview of the NRL round, so I hope you're enjoying those chats. My tipping podcast as well will come out once a week as well, probably on a Wednesday morning after the team lists have been named. On the Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night I'll do that one up, so that one will come out on Wednesday. So I hope you're enjoying that one as well. See if you get more tips than me, and no doubt just let me know about it as well. Say I got more than you, so see how you go with that one, see if you like my tips, and also my Talking Parra excerpts as well podcast, so check that one out as well, and also give the Talking Parra podcast a follow on all the social media channels, Instagram and Facebook, and also on Apple and Spotify, and they are through the Entertain House as well on YouTube. But give all the guys a follow on their respective channels. There's Joel from League of Inches, there's Matty Tate from M Tatey Sports TV as well, there's Hayden from the Entertain House as well. So they all do some great stuff on social media, so give them all a follow, as well as the Talking Parra podcast as well. Now to the sponsors of the podcast, because this all wouldn't be able to do it without their support, so I really appreciate their support as well. So we've got major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, which is exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club in the club shop. We also have Beau Cook from Loan Market, your local Penrith mortgage expert. Contact Beau on 0401 213 236. Get in contact with him today for a free chat and see what he and his team can do for you, and let him know that you heard it here on the Parra Cave podcast. Also have Scott from Brightside Detailing and Ceramics. Now, Scott is a West Tigers supporter, and in the next coming weeks we're going to have a sit-down interview with Scott about his love for the West Tigers, but also previous to that, the Western Suburbs Magpies as well. So there's a little bit of a scoop for you. There's a future episode coming up, so I'm really looking forward to doing that one. But Brightside Detailing and Ceramics, Scott has got 20 years experience in the business. So car detailing, paint correction, ceramic coating, headlight restoration. You can contact him on 0449 544 086 and let him know that you heard it here on the Parra Cave podcast as well. Check out BTZD Teamwear, who are the official clothing sponsor of the podcast. Head to www.btzd.com.au. Check out what they can do for you and your sports team. They bring out some great looking apparel, and I can tell you the Parra Cave podcast polo shirts, they look great and they are really comfortable as well. Also, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, who I actually caught up with up at Magic Round in Brisbane a few weeks ago, and he was wearing his polo shirt and also his Parra Cave podcast hat as well, so I really appreciate your support there, Shannon. But if you're thinking of selling or buying in the Glenmore Park or the suburbs in the Penrith LGA, why not contact the 5-star real estate agent Shannon on 0421 588 445. He will give you 5-star service, that's for sure. And again, let him know that you heard it here on the Parra Cave podcast. Also, the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Parra Cave podcast. So for all your local Parramatta news, simply head to www.parramattatimes.com.au. Don't forget, as I said, I have the replays of the Duckman on Pulse FM podcasts that come out each week, but if you want to catch them live, they are on just after 7 p.m, 7:05, just after 7 p.m. on a Friday and a Sunday night as well. So if you want to catch the live version, tune in for that one as well. But anyway, that's enough for this episode. I'm sorry, it is a long episode. Maybe if you guys, the listeners, would like it to be broken up, a long episode to be broken up in 2 parts, let me know via feedback on the podcast app that you listen on, or send me a message via social media as well. And if I get a lot of feedback about the long episodes, I can cut them into half and release half one day and half the next day. Have a great week as best you can. Enjoy your footy this weekend. Make sure you follow the podcast on all the social media channels to see who is coming up on the podcast, but also some interesting content here and there as well. Some great, interesting guests coming your way over the next few weeks. But to sign off the show, and as I always say, the Parra Cave podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Parra!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parra Cave podcast. See you next time.